Tell them, do you still remember me? Tell them, is this really a dream? Tell them, do you still remember me? Tell them, because I got the dream. Anyways, no, that's not hit though. Anyways, what's up, y'all? It's so much that's the most. Crispy, we're back in that video. See what's going on with this. We got Sponge the Truth. How many characters were killed off of SpongeBob? Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow our social media pop on the screen. Y'all know it been a minute since we watched SpongeBob. SpongeBob in general, as a whole, as a group, as a unit. Let's see what's going on with this. Yeah, I pretty much like my SpongeBob videos, but I need to go ahead and stop like popping them out more than it is. But hope y'all I was about to say, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope y'all do enjoy the video. We're gonna roll for 500. I was about to say 400. 500, and let's see what's going on with this.
Bikini Bottom is one of the most beloved places in cartoon history. It is also, statistically, one of the deadliest places on television. And I have the proof. Now, before you say anything, yes, this is a kid's show. Yes, most of these deaths last about 2 seconds before the episode moves on. And yes, nobody in Bikini Bottom seems particularly bothered by any of it. Well, that's exactly the problem. Or, depending on how you look at it, that's the charm of the show. Bikini Bottom has been running a silent, cheerful massacre for over 20 years.
Wow.
While we all just watched and laughed. And you won't see it the same way again after watching this video. However, before we get into the actual body count, I think we need to address the elephant in the room. Because Bikini Bottom already had dead people before we even started counting. You know the Flying Dutchman, right? Green pirate ghost, sails a legendary haunted ship, shows up every few episodes to terrorize everyone. Well, before he made his big debut in Scaredy Pants, we got a glimpse of his backstory in Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost.
It says when he died, they used his body as a window display. Now
Nah, imagine they use your body as a window display, bro. No, that's low-key messed up, bro. Nah, that's messed up. I ain't gonna hold you. Yeah, I wouldn't want nobody to use my body as a window display.
What's the 7 C's because he was never put to rest.
It's pretty sad, honestly, but to be fair, this comes from a comic book in Squidward's attic, so maybe just take it with a grain of salt. And then there's Smitty Urban Jagerman Jensen.
He was number 1.
Yeah.
I will go.
Number 1, a legend.
Bro, it's like, bro, I used that sample at the end. He was number 1. If y'all go listen to the album, it's on the channel. It's on the music channel. Number 1 song. Go listen to it to the entire end. It's all the way in the end. But in general, damn, imagine you can't, like, your whole last name came to fit in the what's it called? Your tombstone, bro. That's crazy.
A man whose entire legacy in this show is a soda drinking hat. We don't know who he was or what he did when he was alive. All we know is that he's an undead fish who will do anything to prevent his hat from being taken away a second time. Spoiler alert, he's not very good at it. And that right there tells you everything about how this show treats death from the very beginning. Death was never really the final gate, the thing that separates you from the rest of the living world. It's more like a minor inconvenience. With that said, not everyone who dies in this show gets to come back. Some of them just quietly disappear, and the show moves on without so much as a second glance. Remember Sandy's rocket? The episode is about SpongeBob and Patrick sneaking into Sandy's rocket and accidentally launching it, convinced they've landed on the moon when they've actually just landed on the other side of Bikini Bottom. Classic misdirection episode, genuinely funny. But before any of that happens,
No way, SpongeBob. Especially after your little mishap with my whirlybird.
Wow.
Sandy mentions really briefly one of the reasons that she didn't want SpongeBob to touch any of her inventions anymore is because the last time SpongeBob played with the Whirlybird, he killed 96 people. 96 casualties
that was
from
my,
a Whirlybird.
That was my youth league football number. Dang, SpongeBob, 96 people? God.
That Sandy most likely had to arrange a funeral for at some point. And should I say, at least 96. Because that was just the number of tombstones visible from that tiny window. Yes, I've counted them. And then the episode just continues. No one ever goes to jail. Sandy still lets SpongeBob visit her in her dome, and the 96 people are just never mentioned again for the rest of the series. SpongeBob has a vehicular manslaughter count that most war criminals would find impressive, and the show found a way to make it a 2-second visual gag. Like that one poor kid from Hooky. I mean, it's a straightforward cautionary tale. Mr. Krabs warns SpongeBob about the fishing hooks that appear near Bikini Bottom every season. Patrick ignores all of that because he sees the hooks as a fun carnival ride, and then SpongeBob would eventually give in and join them. And at some point during all this, the camera just quietly pans to a pair of shoes on the ocean floor.
There was one
Wow.
earlier.
In any other show, that'd be a setup, a Chekhov's gun, foreshadowing something darker later, which they actually did. Patrick did get caught and sent back inside the tuna can. There's also a strange case where Mr. Puff, as in Mrs. Puff's late husband, gets exactly 2 seconds of screen time. And he's not even alive for those 2 seconds. In Krusty Love, Krabs falls for Mrs. Puff at first sight, but gets nervous when he hears she has Mrs. in her name. However, SpongeBob reassures him, like, oh no, she's not married, and then we get this.
Wow.
She doesn't like to talk about it.
I guess he shares the same fate with the kid from Hooky, though I'm sure he still had a way to come back to Mrs. Puff if he wanted to. I mean, we all watched the 2004 movie and saw that every kind of dried up sea creature could come back from the dead if you pour enough water into it. Still, the show killed a man, made him into furniture, and then used his death as a flirting setup. All within about 15 seconds.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
Mr. Puff has never been mentioned since. Rest in glow, King. However, as quick as that joke is, New Leaf is even more efficient about it. One day, Plankton decides to open a gift shop as a cover story to trick Mr. Krabs, kicking things off with a sad sob story to raise the white flag.
Actually, I can't recall you ever having a customer. Well, there he is.
Wow.
You could argue the customer died of natural causes. Maybe old age, maybe a pre-existing condition. But come on, he died before he could finish the sandwich. And Plankton couldn't even be bothered to clean up the body, to maybe hide the fact that someone got food poisoning from Chum. The skeleton just sits there, still at the table, probably still waiting to complain. But my personal favorite case here is the unnamed spatula from All That Glitters. SpongeBob's spatula breaks while he's cooking a triple...
Yeah, bro. There was the worst episode right here. For the sponge, I mean not SpongeBob, for the spatula, bro. When I saw this as a little kid, I was like, yeah, bro. We gotta make sure we take care of our spatulas, bro. Golly, bro. And how the way he was acting out, bro.
Krabby
it was
Patty.
crazy.
So SpongeBob has to put him in the hospital. Then later in the episode, the show, in its infinite wisdom, decides to give this spatula a death scene.
Spatula? It can't be true. It's too late.
It's not exactly SpongeBob's spatula, but the point still stands. We get a full emotional farewell from a kitchen utensil. Meanwhile, somewhere in this same show, a man fell off a cliff and got an explosion. The spatula got a better death than most of the actual characters in this video. And honestly, that's pretty on brand for this show. Which is fine, honestly, until you realize that some of these deaths weren't quite as accidental as the show makes them look. Let's just start with the Fry Cook Games. The episode is essentially the Olympics, but for fry cooks. SpongeBob represents the Krusty Krab, Patrick represents the Chum Bucket, and they compete across a series of increasingly unhinged athletic events. One of those events is the deep fry pole vault.
That's crazy. And then he ate, and then they, bro, ain't no way, bro. And them people eat that. That's bro.
Fish sticks here!
Patrick
$5.
launches himself off the pole, but he completely mistimes the landing and splashes a vat of boiling oil directly onto the crowd. 48 fish instantly turned into fish sticks.
You know what you realize? What if whole times these are like clones of fish? These clones. These the same fish, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go deep with this. You know me. Hold on. Let's go.
Himself off the pole, but he completely mistimes the landing and splashes a vat of boiling oil.
Two same person, right? Three time. Two. 3 time. Nickelodeon. Are we serious, bro? Bro. Yo, that's just lazy work. Yo, that is lazy work. Yo, bro. I can't even find this dude yet. But come on, dude. Come on, Nickelodeon. That's lazy work right here. They damn near is right by next to each other. Bro, what?
Directly onto the crowd. 48 fish instantly turned into fish sticks. But the
Patrick,
crazy part that really gets me, the vendor in the stands just starts selling them. Like, I understand the business side of it, being opportunistic and all that stuff, but isn't that basically cannibalism? You're serving fish sticks to a crowd of fish? Anyway, Patrick doesn't apologize. The games continue. 48 people are now overpriced stadium food, and nobody...
What would the Bikini Bottom jail sentence would be like? SpongeBob definitely getting life. Patrick, it's life. Squidward, I mean, at best, well, Squidward might low-key get 15 years. I'd say Squidward might low-key get 15. Plankton, life. Mr. Crab, life. Sandy for nudity, I ain't like nudity, like you get like 5 to 6 years or something like that, or 7, if I'm not right. Gary, that dude he's getting some time though. But that's probably like 5 to 10 years. Pearl, probably at best like 1 year. At best 1 year, to be honest with you. And this dude low key's probably getting like a good life sentence too. So
files a single
the Bikini Bottom citizen, majority of them low key might get life, or they might just be in there for a little minute.
Now, if you watched my last video, you already know what's coming here. Sing a song of Patrick. After seeing an ad in the back of a comic book, Patrick decides to write a poem and send it to a recording company so they can turn it into a song. A song so catastrophically bad that it kills 4 musicians in the studio just from performing it.
And a 1, and a 2, and a...
Wow, that's crazy.
They wanted you to have this.
Now, I've covered this one in detail already, so I'll keep it short. But it absolutely belongs here because Patrick almost never faces any proper consequences for it. 4 people died making his art, not to mention some other fish that suffered huge injuries for just hearing the slightest bit of it. And he still got $100. That's the music industry for you. Then there's Band Geeks. If you know SpongeBob, you know Band Geeks. Arguably the greatest episode that this show has ever produced.
Yep.
This is the Squidward finally gets his moment episode. The legendary Sweet Victory plays, everybody loses their mind. However, people rarely talk about the fact that 3 people died getting there. During band practice, Fred and an unnamed fish spin the flag so hard, they take off quickly and then crash into a blimp. I think it's safe to assume that the blimp pilot also dies when it explodes. But then Sweet Victory plays we all forget about...
Squidward is a prime witness of that. Yeah, Squidward getting some minutes in there too. Not gonna bump his sentence up there too. Loki, somebody need to make a TikTok for how many sentences I'm gonna look that up after this.
About it completely because it's just that good of a song, which honestly might be the most bikini bottom thing on this entire list. Old Man Patrick is a much quicker one, but it earns its place here. There's a scene where a lady puts a flotation device on her little girl to help her swim.
Now you've got water wings. Try them.
But just in case you forgot, this show takes place underwater. So the girl just floats away immediately while the mother watches. Death by physics and common sense doesn't.
And they ain't told her nothing. They ain't trying to stop her. They ain't trying to get help. Just solid. She probably was a stress. So like she was probably too excited for that girl to do that.
Happen often in this show, which is exactly why it's so memorable when it does. And then we get to Granny. Have You Seen This Snail is an episode about Gary running away from home after SpongeBob neglects him. Eventually, Gary ends up being taken in by a sweet old grandmother who seems genuinely kind and caring. She is, in fact, not kind and caring. 14 snail shells hidden in a closet. 14 snails that came before Gary, all of whom presumably met the same fate, eaten, and their shells quietly tucked away where nobody would find them. What the episode reveals is that Granny has done this before, multiple times. She takes in stray snails, showers them with affection, feeds them her special cookies. In any other genre, this woman is the villain of a true crime documentary. Good thing Gary made
lucky she's getting a life because animal cruelty, she's definitely getting a good sentence in jail too.
it out alive. Everything we've covered so far has been pretty casual, but every once in a while, bikini bottom deaths get deliberate enough for you to start to feel genuinely uncomfortable about what you just watched. Let's start with the Dirty Bubble. If you know Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, then you know who he is. A massive, sentient, dirty bubble with a menacing reputation.
Wait, whoa. Why the Dirty Bubble is in with Bubba Bath? Come on, bro.
Precedes him. He's been the arch enemy of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy since the very beginning. He has also been defeated at least twice by complete accident. The first time is on Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 2, where SpongeBob tries to save our old superheroes, so he walks up to ask for an autograph, pencil in hand, and pops him with the tip.
Stay back! The point! What's the point now?
Then Dirty Bubble comes back in Patrick Man. It's an episode where Patrick pretends to be a superhero, the Dirty Bubble reveals himself at the Krusty Krab, then there's a whole fight sequence. And at the end of it, just when Dirty Bubble's about to launch his attack, Patrick ducks down to pick up a half-eaten Krabby Patty off the floor and accidentally pops him with the cone on his head.
Lunch!
Patrick wasn't even looking at him. He was thinking about food. That's a specific kind of indignity that the show took the time to do twice on purpose. However, as bad as it sounds, Dirty Bubble still had it better than Scooter in Bubble Buddy. One time, SpongeBob creates a bubble friend named Bubble Buddy to keep him company for the day. They go to the beach, they do a bunch of fun stuff, but at some point, Scooter asks to be buried up to his neck in the sand for fun. They did it pretty good, and SpongeBob leaves Bubble Buddy in charge of digging him out before the tide comes in, while he goes off to get some cotton candy. Bubble Buddy was, in fact, not digging him out. Scooter meets his end in a pretty agonizing way, and his ghost comes back later to confirm it.
Kids, he made me experience high tide! Oh!
Now, for most of the episode, Bubble Buddy appears to be completely inanimate. Just a bubble that SpongeBob moves around and speaks for, which would make this an unfortunate accident. SpongeBob made a bad call leaving an inanimate object in charge of someone's life. Except at the end of the episode, Bubble Buddy reveals that he has been sentient the entire time. He can think, move, and speak like any normal fish, which means he watched Scooter drown, consciously, and chose to do nothing.
But this still don't make no sense right here. If you're a fish, so how could you possibly drown if you're a fish? Unless there's deeper levels to this stuff.
He then politely tips his hat, says things are getting a little weird around here, and leaves Bikini Bottom entirely. No consequences whatsoever. This is a children's cartoon, by the way. And then there's Plankton's family backstory that triggers his whole whale trauma. In One Course Meal, there's a moment where Plankton briefly mentions that his entire family was once eaten by a whale during a family picnic.
Wow.
At a picnic, mid-sandwich, presumably. The crazy thing is that the show doesn't dwell on it, as if it was not the point of the episode. Like, it's just something Plankton says in passing, as context for why he's terrified of whales, and then the plot moves on. But think about what that actually means. Plankton is one of the few remaining...
Nah, I ain't lying to you. Plankton was traumatized, and bro, it got to a point that boy was depressed. He didn't even want to leave his house, like leave the house or nothing like that, bro, at all. Dude did not want to leave that house at all, dog. Like, golly. It got to a point, bro. I'm for real, bro. And then, bro, like, I think Mr. Crab was scared with like a mine or something like that. Them people who be doing and all them thing with the white and black. I might just like that for this Halloween coming up. I don't know.
His bloodline because a pod of whales showed up at the worst possible moment. And his wife isn't even aware of this, let alone her believing the story when Plankton tries to tell her. The casual cruelty of that one scene is genuinely impressive, which is fine until you realize that the show keeps doing this consistently across 20 years. A completely unhinged relationship with mortality that nobody in Bikini Bottom ever stops to examine. Nobody except two people, and that's where we're going next. Before we get to the final case, I do have two honorable mentions that didn't quite fit anywhere else on the list.
Okay.
By the way, they're both about Squidward. Of course they are. The first one isn't really a death scene, technically, it's more of a burial. In One Crab's Trash, when Mr. Krabs sneaks into a cemetery late at night, he stumbles across Squidward, who quietly cries and places flowers on a tombstone. After Squidward leaves, Eugene goes over to the tombstone and it reads, "Here lies Squidward's hopes and dreams." That single image, Squidward mourning his own ambitions at a cemetery at night, is genuinely one of the darkest things this show has ever quietly slipped into a comedy episode. Squidward dug that grave himself, put up the stone himself, and comes back regularly to leave flowers while crying. Man, what I would pay to see an episode where Squidward's hopes and dreams are still alive and well. The second one is his toilet from House Fancy in the middle of the
Patrick broke for this. Boy, I ain't lying to you, son. Patrick could have been my dog no more, son. After he did what that toilet do, bro, oh, no, bro. I'm about to show y'all.
Vacuum chaos.
Look at this.
Patrick knocks on the door to use Squidward's bathroom, and that's it. That toilet gets to share a fate with all Taco Bell toilets. See, the toilet, another inanimate.
Boy, toilet not supposed to be doing that, dog. No, toilet is not supposed to be doing that, crawling, trying to get out the spot, bro. That quick, bro. I'm for real.
Object develops enough sentience in that moment to beg for death. This show really loves to give inanimate objects a proper sentimental death, while it just makes jokes anytime any actual living creatures die. Okay, everything we've covered in this video, the fish sticks, the snail shells, the toilet, the dreams, all of it has been a joke. A dark one, sure, but a joke. This one isn't. Because if there are any characters in this whole show that Nickelodeon actually killed off, it's our dynamic superhero duo. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy were two of the most beloved
because they went on the retirement home, and really it's no point of putting Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy in any other season if they in a retirement home. What we just gonna make? We just gonna keep going on and on about them going on the retirement home or coming out of the retirement home and doing all that? But like, no.
Characters in the entire show. SpongeBob's childhood superheroes. The warmest, funniest, most genuine source of heart the series had outside of the main cast. However, they're long gone now, because the voice actors who brought them to life, Ernest Borgnine and Tim Conway, both passed away in 2012 and 2019 respectively. The show acknowledged it the only way it really could, by retiring the characters with quiet dignity. Their characters were still in the show, But nowadays, they're reduced to mute background characters. No voice ever came out of their mouths again. Every death we've talked about today, Bikini Bottom brushed off without a second thought. But this one, the show actually felt it. And so did everyone watching. Rest easy, old men. So, there you have it. Bikini Bottom, the most beloved underwater neighborhood in cartoon history, has been quietly running one of television's most consistent body counts for over 20 years. Background fish,
Nah, that's crazy.
cannibalism, snail shells in a closet, a toilet that begged for mercy, and a spatula that got a better funeral than most.
Nah, that's crazy. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow our social media pop on the screen. We want to roll to 5.8 and I'm out.